It's on. Does that mean we're ready? All right. Then we'll get started. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for your patience tonight as we get settled. We have a great program for you this evening, and it's awesome attendance on this nice August day, so thank you very much. If I could remind everybody to take out your cell phones and silence them, or turn the volume down, or turn them off, whatever's easiest. Is that better? So I'm Jeff Patton. I'm the Vice President of the Central Pennsylvania World War II Roundtable, and we'll start this program as always. If you'd please rise with me as able, take off your caps, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please take your seats. As we always want to do, we obviously have one World War II veteran on the stage with us, but if you're a World War II veteran, if you could raise your hand and be recognized. Herb's over here, and we have Ray in the front row. Thank you very much. Any other veterans in the room, if you'd raise your hand and be recognized. Thank you for your service. We appreciate your support and all your sacrifice that you gave so that we can be here today. As always, we have several fundraising efforts for our programs. The helmet committee will be in the back of the room as you walk out with World War II helmets, if you care to make a donation. And we have the books for sale or for donations out in the hallway there. And we also have coffee mugs for sale for $10 if you're interested in a coffee mug. They make great gifts. A couple of other announcements. The Hershey Community Gardens group is here. If you didn't notice, there's a bunch of flowers with vases as you walked in, and they are for you. So they have they're a nonprofit, and they're here to share joy, and they're donating the flowers. So if you would please take a flower. If you didn't take one on the way in, you can take one on the way out. Their goal is to get rid of all the flowers today with our group so they don't have to give them away tomorrow. So you can help them out doing that. And thank you for them for being here today. So for this day in World War II history, I have two things to talk about. First of all, in 1942, U.S. forces landed at Guadalcanal, marking the start of the first major Allied offensive in the Pacific World War during World War II in the Pacific. And then, of course, as most people know, 80 years ago this week, on the 6th of August, yesterday, a little boy was dropped on Hiroshima. On the 9th of August, Fat Man was dropped in Nagasaki, which led to VJ Day on the 15th of August, which was the end of World War II. So 80 years ago next week, the end of World War II, and that is the reason why we're all here today, actually, right? So pretty prominent. Upcoming events, you can always check out our Facebook page for additional details. On the 23rd of August, so just a couple weeks away, right here, there's a cruise aboard, there's a Maritime History Day down in Baltimore at the SS John W. Brown, which is a Liberty ship, one of the Liberty ships in the Baltimore Harbor there. So they have a History Day on the 23rd of August. And then coming up later in August, the 30th and 31st, the Golden Age Air Museum in Bethel is having a Military Heritage Weekend. And that is free to military and veterans. So again, check out our Facebook page if you're interested in that. On the 13th and 14th of September, Army Exposition's going on at the Army Heritage and Education Center in Carlisle. That's a great event, obviously, with the 250th anniversary of the military of the Army. That's going to be a great event this year with a lot of great expositions. So we'll be there, and it's a free event for everybody. Also that weekend, the Liberty ship SS John W. Brown has a cruise on the 13th of September. So if you're interested, if you're not coming to AHEC and you're down in Baltimore, you can jump on the boat and take a boat ride. And then on 19th to 21st of September is World War II weekend at the Eisenhower National Historic Site in Gettysburg. And then last but not least, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the 250th birthday for the United States Marine Corps, and that's going to be held on November 1st at the Penn Harris Hotel Convention Center in Camp Hill. And that's free for all World War II veterans. I'm looking for Larry. Where'd Larry move to? Oh, you're right there. You're hiding. Okay, so if you have any questions, Larry, raise your hand one more time. He's helping organize the event. We'll have some of our veterans at attendance for that event, but if you're interested in purchasing a ticket or attending, or if you know any World War II veterans that would like to attend, please talk to Larry afterwards for that. For upcoming roundtable speakers, next month, the 4th of September, we have our own Bill Jackson, who's here in the front row. He's going to be talking about his father's service in Big Red 1. He's going to talk about his stepfather's service, and then he's going to talk about some childhood friends and maybe a little bit about Dick Winters as well. So that'll be our program on the 4th of September right here. And then on the 2nd of October, we have Russell Baumgartner, who's going to talk about his service as a merchant marine. So some great programs coming up. And now it's time to introduce our speaker for this evening. In May of 1944, Russell Sattazahn was drafted into the Army shortly after high school. He trained at Camp Blanding in Florida. His 17-week basic training was cut short in the 15th week because of the Battle of the Bulge, as replacements were needed in Europe. He crossed the Atlantic in a convoy on the USS Wakefield following the Queen Mary. When he landed in France, he was sent right away to the front lines in Belgium, where he served as a private in Company G, 18th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division, as a replacement rifleman and tasked as a scout for his rifle squad. On March 24th, in 1945, he took cover in a basement of an abandoned house in Germany. While there, German artillery fire exploded nearby, and the shrapnel caused severe injuries to his face and the loss of his right hand. If a squad member had not been right by next to him to help bandage the wound and stop the bleeding, he might not have made it at all. The next day, he was taken to a field hospital in a Jeep, where a Red Cross volunteer woman helped him write a letter to his parents informing them what had happened. Russell received 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart medal for his bravery and service and his battle injuries, which he's wearing tonight on his left lapel. He returned to the U.S., spending some more time in hospitals undergoing treatment, and in October 1945, he returned to his parents' home, bringing his military service to an end. He wears a prosthetic right hand due to his wartime injuries, but is still able to play golf. In 2024, he celebrated his 75th wedding anniversary with his wife, Georgette, and today Russell is 99 years old and lives in Schaefferstown, Pennsylvania. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Russell Sattazahn and Tyler here to help interview him. Thank you.
Do you want to start off by introducing yourself?
The what? Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Russell Sattazahn. I'm from Schaefferstown, Pennsylvania. I was in high school in 1944 when the World War II was going on, and the day you were 18, you had to register for the draft. Not the day after, not the day before, but the day after, the day you signed up for the draft board, you were Uncle Sam's boy. You didn't know when you were going. I was the only boy in my class left. The rest had been drafted before they got out of high school. I made it through high school. But shortly thereafter, I was drafted. And I went to the draft board, and you had to take a physical. The day I went up to the draft board, they said, "Do you have a preference of what branch of service you'd like to be into?" I said, "Possibly the Navy." I went up to the desk, Army, stamped Army. That's the choice I had. So that started. So I'm not a speaker, but I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. I was drafted, and went up to New Cumberland, got outfitted, and went down to Camp Landing, Florida for my basic training. And I was down there in December for basic training. That was an IRTC camp, and that meant Infantry Replacement Training Center. I was there was a 17-week course. I was in my 15th week out in bivouac. We had on Saturday morning we had a 25-mile march, full field pack, 25 miles back into the camp. On Friday night, some trucks came in there and said, tear down camp, we're leaving tonight. I didn't know it at the time, but I was going overseas. I never finished basic training. They needed replacement. They had the Battle of the Bulge, and you all know that a lot of men lost both sides, and they needed replacement. So I was drafted at 18 and on the front lines before I was 19. Things were pretty good because the Germans were run out of ammunition. They didn't have any thing to tell them their superiors weren't around anymore. They didn't know what to do. We took the prisoners sometimes without even firing a shot. But on March the 24th, they decided they were going to, but I should go back before that. When I went into Belgium to the front lines, they said, we'll take you out here to a foxhole, and there'll be a man in there. I said, what do we do tomorrow morning? He said, we'll hook you up with a guy that's experienced. He's in the foxhole, and that'll be your foxhole buddy. And we got out there about 10 o'clock at night, pitch black and snow and cold. After all, somebody said, halt, who goes there? And we said who we were. They said, what's the password? And they said, purple car. That was the password for the night. So they dropped me off there. He said, this is going to be your foxhole buddy. You're on the front lines. I said to the foxhole buddy, I said, what do we do tomorrow now? What's this all about? I was only 18 years old. Didn't know what scares could be. And he said, oh, I don't know. We'll know tomorrow morning. Yesterday was my first day here, so that's the experience So things went along pretty good. He was a pretty good foxhole buddy. He was a little older than I was. I took him to be about 24 years old, and he took me under his wing like a father. I really liked what he did for me, so that's when we got into action. And like I say, we were taking town after town. We had different experiences through different battles. We wouldn't sleep more than 4 hours any night. Most of the time we were on the march for the next town. Just kept moving. So we were going along pretty good till March the 24th. They decided to make a last stand. And they went back into this town, and they dug in, and they had artillery set up, and they had machine gun fire across open fields that we had across. So the whole company charged at one time, and we went across this field, and they opened fire on us with machine gun fire and heavy ammunition. Halfway across the field, I saw a crater from a bomb, and I dove in the crater for protection. And there's one man in the crater area, and he said, I think they're sticking out here. I could hear some bullets hitting the dirt in back of me. So I said, I'm getting out of here. He said, no, I'm not going. Now I get up and run. I'm the only man on the field anymore. All the rest had come over into the town. It was another, I'd say 50 to 100 yards that I had to run. And I went across the field, and I went into the first house that I got into. And everybody was in the basement. There was 2 rooms in the house. And everybody was in the house, and we could hear artillery coming in. The first one got pretty close to the house, and we could tell by the whistle how close it was going to be. And the first one got close, and there was a room over on the other side. There was 2 rooms joined by a hallway, and we went over to the other, tried to go over to the other side, and when we were going through the doorway, the second one hit directly, and shrapnel all over the place. So that's when I was wounded. Took my arm off, my hand, just the hand, not the arm, but and I had a couple of stitches under my nose here, and that was my history. And I was sent home, and I had to have another operation when I got home. So, other than that, what?
Why don't you tell them about basic training? Talk about the mortar story.
Oh yeah, he said to tell you about it, the mortar story. In basic training, we were in, I would say maybe in the 10th or 11th week of training, and our company was out on the firing range, firing all kinds of weapons, including the mortar, machine gun fire, hand grenades, you name it, we fired them all. And there was another company forming, the recruits coming in, but they didn't have a full company yet, so they used these ones that they had here already, the young recruits, to go out to police areas, picking up cigarette butts and keeping them busy till they could form a company to start their basic training. And they'd come out there on the rifle range where we were, and they were policing the area, picking up brass and whatever they could find. And the one boy found a mortar round that hadn't gone off. He didn't know it, I guess, and he probably didn't even know what it was, because he was a recruit, new. He decided, I'm going to send that home. That's a nice souvenir. So when they come in to pick him up at night, he put under his jacket, under his arm in his jacket, and took it back into the camp. Now they were starting their company right next door to ours in concert huts, and he got into the concert hut that night, and he sat on the top. Another fellow sat on the top bunk, was sitting on the top bunk, and said, "Let me see that." He was going to send it home. He said, "Let me see that." He threw it up to him, and he missed it, and it went down and hit on the floor and blew both of his arms off. Yeah. And that was his story down there. The next day, they told us they're going to have inspection, and we better not even find a brass shell anywhere. We're going to give you a chance. There's a box out here in the Compton Street. If you have any bullets, anything at all, the box wasn't big enough to hold them all. People were probably all going to send them home. I didn't have anything, but that was about the story there. So.
Tell them, once you crossed the Atlantic Ocean, you were in Belgium. Tell them about your bazooka story.
Oh yeah, when we went across on a ship called the USS Wakefield, there was 3,000 on our ship to go over recruits. One day ahead of us was Queen Mary. She had 7,000 soldiers on. So when we got over, we landed in England, and when we got to the front lines in Belgium, that's when we got into action. And by the third or fourth day in battle, somebody come and had a bazooka. You know, if you know what a bazooka is, it shoots rockets, and it's a team. My buddy had the bazooka, and I had the ammunition. 6 rounds of ammunition weighs about 6 or 8 pounds, about a pound apiece. The rockets that shoot, it looks like a stovepipe. He shoots it on his shoulder, and as the ammunition, I have to load it up and hook it up to a battery to charge it, to shoot it. I hooked it up, and he was shooting at a house where there was a man across the field in a house, and he was firing it in our directions. And he said, "Fire on that house, let's get it out of here." So we put the bazooka together, and he's sitting there pulling the trigger. "Hey, you don't have that hooked up right." He said, "There's something wrong. You don't have it hooked up right." I said, "Yeah, I know how to hook it up. I did it in basic training, and I'm sure." Well, he said, it doesn't seem right. And he's looking down at the trigger. Off it went. About 100 yards over the top of the house. Never did hit the house. So we had that until we crossed the Siegfried line. And my buddy said, "Peter, you're not using this bazooka." I said, "I'm going to throw it away. How about you? You want to throw those rounds away?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to carry rounds if you don't have a bazooka." So we threw boots away on them. Because we had so much loaded, so much ammunition, hand grenades, everything. So I had 2 bandoliers of ammunition, and that ammunition weighs a lot too. So we were a full fuel pack. So we had enough. And when we were crossing the Siegfried line, we going between pillars, concrete pillars, all across Germany. And on the other side, we were taking a town across the field from the other side. And that was really mined on the other side when we got through there. And when the first Scot went out, he stepped on one of these mines and blew part of his foot off and come crawling back. And the platoon sergeant said, "Hey, the second Scot, you got to take over, let's go." The second Scot said, "I'm not going out there. I'm not going out there." And the platoon sergeant turned a rifle on him and said, "Go out there, that's now." Well, he shouldn't have done that, because when he turned a rifle on him, about 6 or 7 rifles, Sarge, I wouldn't do that. So now Sarge's crying, he says, "Somebody got to go out there." My foxhole buddy said, "Russell, I'll go out." I said, "You don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to go out there either." So he said, "Yeah," he said, "I tell you." Now he was a corporal already. He said, "I'll take over first Scot, and that I'll be corporal, and you'll automatically get PFC." He said, yeah, we'll go out there. I said, "Okay." Well, he was in the snow, and every step that he took of it was in the same steps. So I figured if he made it, I'd make it too. So we made it through there. So that was another incident.
Talk about, you said near the Herkin, you heard the burp gun. The brrr.
Oh, yeah. The Germans had what they called it was like a machine gun, but it's called a burp gun. And that fired so fast that it sounded like a piece of canvas tearing. You get burp, and I don't know how many rounds in a second they went off, but I heard those in the distance. I never saw any.
Talk about the sniper, the one guy went around.
Yeah, okay. When we made the town where I was wounded, we gathered in a barnyard. There was the house, and the barn was over here, and the company were all lined up in these barnyards to invade that town where I was wounded. And there was a German in a foxhole out in the open field about 50 yards outside where we had to cross. And he was firing every now and then. And nobody wanted to get out there till they got rid of him. So one of my, I don't know who he was. He might have been from my outfit, or he might have been from another company. But he was one of the guys that said, "You guys cover me, pin him down, keep firing on the foxhole, and I'm going to go around the side and come in on the side and get him." So he did that, and when he got halfway in through, he made a motion for us to stop, and he went up to the foxhole. To this day, I don't know whether the German gave up or whether he was killed. He went up to the foxhole, and he turned around, and he came back in and said he was taken care of. And he got within 20 yards of us, and all of a sudden he dropped. Somebody, there must have been a sniper someplace. I never heard the shot, I just saw him drop. And about that time we took off and left him there for somebody else to take care of. So there's where a guy was killed, I guess.
Tell them about when you were hit with the mortar round, the German shell. What did your arm look like?
He said to tell you what my arm looked like when I was hit with that. Well, first of all, we were pushing through this doorway. Everybody tried to get through the doorway at one time, and the guy in front of me, and when it went off, I wanted to take another step, was pushing on, and my arm came up, and I looked. No hand. It was just dangling on a piece of thread here. And so I said to myself, I'm never going to play baseball again. That's what first thing that came to my mind. And from then on, I was thinking all night about it. They couldn't get me out right away. We were supposed to meet at a civilian hospital once we took the town, it was cleared, and meet to reorganize to go to the next move. And I didn't know where the hospital was, and nobody else did, I guess. And we were laying in there, and they couldn't get me out all night long. And I slept in and I didn't really hurt that bad. But anyways, every now and then a runner would come in and said, we still can't get you out, there's still shelling in the area. So about 7 o'clock in the morning, it was daylight already, 2 fellows came with a stretcher. And they said, we can get you down to the hospital now to take you back to the MASH hospital to be operated on. And I said, okay. He said, can you walk? I said, yeah, I think so. He said, well, we can make better time than trying to carry you back there on a stretcher. So they took on both sides of it, and they took me to this hospital in the vestibule. They must have had about, I'd say, a dozen or more stretchers waiting for ambulances to take them back to what they call the MASH hospital, like you see on television, the MASH hospital. That's where they took us. Now, they didn't have enough ambulance, so they used jeeps with a rack on it. They had a rack across the hood that had 2 stretchers and 2 across the back, just on a cast iron frames. And they put a fellow next to the windshield. Then they came and got me and put me in the front across the hood yet. And they went and got one for the back, and they didn't come back, and they didn't come back. And it must have been coffee break or something, but I was anxious to get out of there. So now they come with the 4th one. Now they want to go. So they head out, and they take off, and they hit a little bump, and my stretcher fell off, partly off of the. I grabbed the other one and held on, and hollered at him to stop. And the driver and his buddy said, "Yes, stop. Take it a little easy." And I said, "Yeah," and that hurts. Every bump he went over, it felt. Anyways, then he finally took me back. That's when we went back to a MASH hospital, and that they had to redress it, and they couldn't operate there, but they sent me home and I was down in Atlantic City for the rest of the summer. They made hotels down in Atlantic City. They made hotels into hospitals down there.
Did you want to tell them what the medic said when he was treating you? What the medic said to you? What the officer said to the medic?
Oh, when I got wounded and I was laying on the floor in the house, I yelled for a medic, and there was a second lieutenant in there in the house, and there was also a medic in there, a squad medic, the second lieutenant said, "Let that guy go over there. This guy needs you more over here." So he comes over there right away and gives me a shot of morphine and starts working, trying to put a compressed pad on here to cover it up. And the problem was these two fingers that were on a piece of string yet, they were hanging down here, and he was trying to shove them in the bandage, and he couldn't get them in there. And the lieutenant said, "Those fingers they're in your way. Why don't you cut them off?" He said, "Sir," he said, "I'm just a medic. I can do no surgery. I can only give first aid." So he said, "Well, I'll tell you, cut them off. That's an order." And I know that I said, "You might as well." I felt I did, because if they weren't doing me anything, I could have gone like this. That's all that was holding me anymore. So that was that episode.
Tell them about the Gray Ladies.
When they sent me back to the MASH hospital, the Red Cross had what they called Gray Ladies. They would be back in the hospitals, and it helped to give them first aid. And she come to me and said, "Would you like to write a letter home?" She said, "I know you can't write in yours. Would you like to write a letter home and let your family know how you are?" I said, "That would be great." And I dictated her a letter for her, told her to my brother, to let my brothers know, my sister and my parents. And my mother was the one that took care of me. She put her name as the one to respond to. Anyways, we sent it home. In the letter I said, "I lost my right arm, but I'm going to be all right, and I'll be home. Other than that, I'm fine, and I'm going to make it." So she dictated this letter to her and sent it to her. And my mother got the letter one day, and the next day she got a telegram from the government. He said, "We're sorry to say that your son, Russell Sattazahn, has been seriously wounded to death." Nothing. She would have known, but she had got the letter the day before, so she knew, and that was really nice because they wouldn't have known what was going on. So.
And tell them you still have that original letter.
Yes, I have that letter, and I have the telegram. Yeah.
Tell them the name of the town that you were wounded.
The name of my town, if I'm correct, it was Eucharist, Germany. Eukrath. But that's right, I don't know. Now we're going to be going back to Germany in September. His group is going to take us back to Europe. And they think they found the house where I might have been wounded. I'm sure that's built up right now that it's a city, probably.
We found the exact house, we think, where he was wounded, and we got permission from the current owners to go in the house. So it'll be very special for Russell.
Sure will, yeah. Yeah. And I'd be happy to meet the people. I don't know whether they were there anymore, because they could have been in the kitchen. We went straight down in the basement for protection, so I don't know whether they were there. Mm-hmm. Usually what happened, they would leave, they'd get back, and then when it was all clear, they'd come back to their homes again.
Tell them what it was like to see your family again when you came in the door.
In my place.
Yeah, like when you got home.
Oh yeah, it was really great when we walked in. I believe I hitchhiked home from Lebanon. I came back from Camp Landing, not Camp Atlantic City at the hospital, and I come home by train, and then in Lebanon, I got off the train, and you didn't have to put your thumb out. The first car that came along and it stopped and say, "Where are you going? We'll take you there." Everybody was really nice. At that time, you didn't have trouble getting. You could have rode across the country as a serviceman.
Tell them how long you were married, about your family.
Yes. Last year, my wife and I were married 75 years. I am 99 years old now.
And tell them about your family. You're going to be a great
Oh, yeah. I just found out about a month ago, I'm not a great-grandfather. I have 3 granddaughters. I only have 1 daughter. We had 1 daughter. Anyways, we had one daughter, and she had 3 daughters, and between the 3 daughters, we had 7 grandchildren, and now we got a great-grandson, daughter, and in September we're going to have a great-grandson too. Yeah.
Looking back at your service, are you proud of serving? And if you could, would you do it again?
He said, would I be proud of the service, and would I do it again? I always said I did my duty. Many people come up and say, "Thank you for your service," and I appreciate it. That is what I would want. That's all I would want. But many times the people say, "You are the heroes." I said, "No, don't put me there. I did my service, but the heroes aren't back here today." So that usually gets to me a little bit. I don't want to be called a hero. I did my duty to my country, and I've been proud to do it. Because if you would see what war is like, you wouldn't want to have war in our country either. And if we didn't defeat the Germans and the Japanese, our country wouldn't look the same today.
Would you like to have them ask you some questions?
Yes. And he would say, and that's what I was going to say too. Any questions? Like I say, I'm not a speaker, and that's my experience. And if there's any questions that somebody would like to know, I would be glad to tell them. Yes.
The mic's coming around. Just 1 second.
He's going to get a microphone.
I'm running.
Also tell them, Russell, tell them
As you know, Tyler might have to repeat the question because the sound only comes this way. But it's for the audience.
What did you do for a living after you came back from your service?
What did you do for a living? What was your job?
Oh, I worked over in Lancaster at RCA. You know what RCA was? Same as General Electric. In fact, I worked there 34 years, and General Electric, the last 6 months, General Electric bought RCA. RCA also owned NBC in New York, and that's what General Electric wanted. And they also owned Hertz, a taxi service. So that's what they want, and they bought it. I worked for them for 6 months till I could retire. And when they bought it, they immediately sold off the television and tube division. Well, what they wanted, they got General Electric. So
Tell them what day it is today.
yeah, I just was out I go out for breakfast in the morning and meet a couple of fellows, and one of the fellows said, "You know what day this is today?" I said, "No, I have no idea." He said, "It's Purple Heart Day." So today is designated as Purple Heart Day, so it just happened to hit my day, I guess. I got the Purple Heart, of course, so. That time, President Roosevelt was in office when I was in the service, but when I was over in the hospital, one of the nurses came, a French nurse came, she said, "The President of the United States has died." So I was over in Paris waiting for a flight home. And that was April the 13th, I believe. I think that's when it was, April the 13th.
I don't know.
Or maybe the 3rd. The 11th was when Germany gave up. It was around the 3rd of, that he would have died, and when I was over there, yeah.
At what point were you assigned to the 1st Infantry Division?
When were you assigned to the Big Red One? When did you get attached to the division?
I got attached to the day I got over to the front lines.
So you didn't go through one of those replacement centers in England?
What did you say?
He didn't go through one of those replacement centers in England?
Did you go? You landed in Scotland, right?
No, I landed in England.
Did you go through any of the? He said there was 3 big replacement centers in England. Did you go there?
No. We went from England to Lahore, France, and then we crossed the English Channel. I think it would have been Lahore.
Okay. So I guess not.
And did his group from basic training, were they together?
No, he said in Camp Landing, basic training, were all those guys 1st Infantry? I think in the way here you said they were.
No, they just got assigned to the 1st Infantry. That was an infantry training camp, but it wasn't the 1st Infantry. It could have been any infantry, I think.
Remember last week we met a guy from the 86, so there was all
Yeah,
divisions.
yeah. That was just an infantry replacement center.
Yes, ma'am.
You might have said this, and I missed it, but how long were you actually in before you were injured?
So before you got injured on the 24th of March, how long? I think you said you got over there mid-January.
I got over there in the middle of January, and for the most part, we went from Belgium right into Germany. I have 2 battle stars. One battle star is for Eastern Europe, and the second one is for the Rhineland. Those are 2 battles that I was in. Now somebody would got one for the Battle of the Bulge and other different battles, and Normandy Landing and different all those places.
Right. Was there another?
You said you're going over to Germany next month. Have you been back previously to Europe to visit any of the battlefields?
This is your first time, right? Going back to Europe?
Yes, my first time back to Europe, yeah.
And we're going with Russell and Frank, and Frank's going to see where he took over a farmer's field to build an airplane runway for the first time. So they're both going to see 2 things that they saw 80 years ago that they haven't seen. So that'll be pretty cool. So.
I wonder if I could ask a question real quick for Russell. Since you fought towards the end of the war, I know he's seen a lot in movies and documentaries. Some of the last-ditch defenders you talked about in March. Did you have to face some kind of radical, like Hitler Youth or SS units you had to fight towards the end? I know that's often depicted in the stories towards the end of the war. Did you have to face any like Hitler Youth or SS at the end of the war?
So since you were like a green soldier, you were a replacement, did you see any like Hitler Youth or the Volkssturm, like the last ditch effort divisions of the Germans, like the Hitler Youth, the old men? Did you see any of that?
No, I met some of the prisoners we take and I would talk to them. I'm Pennsylvania Dutch, and I could pick up a little bit of German. High German, not very much, but there's a place in Mannheim, Germany, that when they speak, it's like I can speak word for word with Pennsylvania Dutch with them.
Him and Russell and Frank in the car rides all the time, all they're talking is Pennsylvania Dutch. I have no idea if they're talking bad about me or not, but
Yeah, he does know a little bit of Dutch now.
a little bit.
He knows what a schubkarrig is.
It's a wheelbarrow.
Yeah. Anybody have any idea what a schubkarrig is? That's a wheelbarrow. And so we're teaching him Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yes.
Can you tell us what it was like sailing across the Atlantic Ocean on a Liberty ship? And just to share one thing, Dankeschön.
Okay, so crossing the Atlantic Ocean, did you get seasick? How long did it take? What did you see?
No, it didn't. I didn't get seasick, and there was another buddy I met. I never knew him. I never did hear his name, and we got new rifles, and those rifles were packed in cosmoline. That's a heavy grease. Now we had to get that out. When you got a rifle back in the States, you could use something called toluene. It was a solvent, and you could clean them good. The only thing we had on the ship was cold water. Well, you don't grease with water. That doesn't work too good. But anyway, my new rifle, the first day I went to fire a shell, I fired at that hospital where the bazooka went over. I fired at that window, and nothing happened. I pulled the trigger, and I could just hear the bullet go real slow. I ejected that one, and there was another thing. I had the M1 rifle, and that's a right-hander shooter. I was shooting left-handed. So that wasn't the best. But anyway, I had to reach over the top, pull the bolt back, and put a second one in. That one went off. I got it warm then. I got it really hot. I just kept firing until it got good and hot and melted that grease.
Tell them.
Worked all right ever since.
So, like last week, we took you to shoot the M1, right?
Yes, yeah. Tyler took us to a rifle range and left me shoot the M1 again. Last week, what day I believe it was.
And you hit your target.
I hit the target at one time, but I couldn't see my front side too good. I had two cataracts taken in, and the one didn't work out too good, so it wasn't the best. But I did hit the target the first time, you know.
It would have been a scary day for a German.
Yeah.
Tell them one more story. Tell them about the German prisoners, and you're like, make those blank blanks run.
Oh yeah. When they took me back to the camp, to the hospital, the MASH hospital, on the Jeep, as we were going back, I would say from the front lines, they might have been back about 5 miles away, it seemed. And as we were going back, they come across two GIs and had a bunch of German prisoners, and were walking back, and they pulled up to them and said, "Where are you taking those?" Now, I didn't know where they were. I knew where I was. So they were saying something. He said, "We're going that way." He said, "Hop in the Jeep, you two guys, and we'll make them SOBs run all the way." I said, "No." Then his driving buddy said, no, the guards said, "No, you take him back, and if you're here yet when you come back, we might take you up on that." So I don't know how they made out. So.
I just like
And talking to the prisoners, one time I saw one that looked awful young. And I said, how old were you when you went into the service? And I understood him to say 12 years old. that he would have been drafted into the service. And
Any
they
more
were
questions?
good. I mean, they were easy to take prisoners. One day, they took, when we crossed the secret line, they had pillboxes on the other side. And there's some Germans in the pillboxes captured a squad of ours, a whole squad. And they had them in the pillbox all day long. When we got into town, they had the town cleared, and we didn't know what happened to them. About 5 o'clock, they came into town, and we said, "Where were you all day?" They said, "We were prisoners. The Germans had us prisoners in his pillbox. They were sitting up at one end, and they were at the other end, and they'd come and ask the question, what happens if you would take us prisoners?" "Oh, well," they said, "you take back in, you go into prison camps, but they have shows for you, they have dances for them, and they take care of you. You might go out and police the area or something and do some work for the state or whatever." And back and forth, and at about 5 in the evening, they come back with their rifles. They said, "You were our prisoners all day long. Now we're your prisoners. Take us in." So they brought them in that night. That's how they wanted to get rid of them. I got into a house one time. When we'd take in town, we'd go into the house, and here was an officer's uniform on what I would call the kitchen table. The uniform was there, and a nice pearl-handled dagger was on it, and a belt with a swastika on the side. There was a swastika on the dagger too. So I took the dagger and took it along home, and well, I didn't get it home. I got back into this, and I put it on my belt, and for the rest of the time I was fighting there, and about 2 or 3 weeks before one guy came up to Russ, he said, "If I was you, I wouldn't carry that. Send it back to your kitchen roll." He said, "If the Germans ever take you prisoners, you're going to eat it." And he said that's what they would do with them. They figured you killed a German, you know, and if the prisoners would take you, they think that you should be killed too. So.
Is there any other questions for us?
Your last questions? If not, Chris, over to you for the presento.
Russell, tell them what's in your finger.
Oh, yes. When I was home about a couple of years, I fell on the ice, and I guess I broke this finger here. And back in the hospital, they took an X-ray of it. He said, "Well, you got a piece of metal in your finger." I have a piece of shrapnel in my finger all the years. They said, "Do you want to take it out?" I said, "Doesn't bother me. Let it in. No use cutting me open to take it. It's just a little piece of metal. It's a little black spot on there." And they said it's a piece of metal. It was a piece of shrapnel yet. When those shells explode, they spread shrapnel, heavy metal shrapnel all over the place. And they're really strong too. Yeah. Because to begin with, it first of all, it had to come through the basement of a house before it got into us in the basement there. And they must have got about a half a dozen of the guys that were wounded. One guy was pretty bad up. The guy was in front of me. I saw pretty much blood there, but I think he was all right.
Well, maybe we'll give a round of applause, and then we'll do question and answer.
I thank you. It was a pleasure being here, and I was glad to talk.
Actually, sorry, I meant to say give you the speaker gifts. So we'll start anew here. Let me give you these first, so then I'll say a few words. Russell, it's a small thank you from us for
Okay.
being here tonight. Thank you from us. And Tyler, one for you as well.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Welcome. Thanks for being
Very nice.
Thanks so much, guys. A small token of our appreciation. We've been doing this for years to give the famous World War II roundtable coffee mug.
I believe that's a
And,
big dress ribbon, isn't it?
Be good for breakfast and whatnot and other times. And we really want to thank you guys for being here. Tyler, thanks for driving him and interviewing him up front here. And Russell, thanks for your service in World War II. Big Red 1 Division, very impressive. And you served your country well, and we're honored to have you here tonight. We also appreciate your wonderful stories that you told us about your service and days not to be forgotten. And we recorded the talk as we always do, so we want to preserve that for future generations. And so we have, we have some young people, other generations here as well, and they're learning from your stories, and we want to preserve that. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Also, thanks to our other World War II veterans and other veterans we have here tonight, including Frank, a previous speaker here, and Irv and others. And thank you so much for being here. And so just a few quick announcements. I do want to remind you that our next speaker will be our first president and founder, Bill Jackson, in the front row. Thank you, Bill, for being here tonight. And thanks for the last few months for coming, too. We know that you had some recovery to be doing, but you're doing much better now, you told me, so I'm happy about that. Bill will be talking about next month about his father, who tragically was lost in World War II as a casualty. And Bill himself turned about 11 only 2 days after World War II was over, so he was a young boy. He can talk about his home front experiences to us as well. And so we'll hear that from Bill next time. And then in October, we have a World War II veteran I've known for years, but he never wanted to speak before. And I've asked him before, and he's always said no, or he used to come to our meetings, and he would never showed me an interest in speaking. Russell Baumgartner, he was the Merchant Marine during World War II, so he'll tell, and he was drafted the same as Russell, another Russell. His name's Russell, too. They both drafted at age 18, just really young guys, both you guys. And he's Pennsylvania Dutch, too, by the way. He knows Pennsylvania Dutch, too. So you guys, if you come in October, you can talk. You guys can have a conversation on PA Dutch, and he's fluent in that, still Russell Baumgartner, yeah. So he's also Pennsylvania Dutch. And so thanks, guys. And okay, so our helmet committee in the back, I don't want to forget them. These gentlemen are very intrepid. They've been doing this for years and helping us out with the collections. And so if you feel like you want to support our mission, and we do have expenses every month, we would appreciate it if you can donate. But if you don't have the means to donate right now, or you're not able to tonight, we understand. But we would appreciate it if you're able to think about us. And those guys are in the back there. We do have book sales going on as well. And I can't forget the Hershey Community Gardens are here tonight. This is the first time they've been here. They had an outreach to us. They have free flowers for all you guys to take back for your loved ones or for yourselves. And if there's some extras, you can go ahead and grab more than one. And they're in the back. They're totally free. Just grab the flowers on your way out and take them home and enjoy them if you can, if you'd like to. Other than that, we'll invite you up front to talk to Russell and shake his hand, a World War II veteran's hand tonight, and talk to him. And we have some other World War II veteran guests as well. You can talk to them too. And thanks so much, guys, for being here. We'll see you next time. Thank you.